I first want to tell you something about how we see this as a city and what is coming towards us. We call that a city in transition, and that we are going towards a new reality, as we call it. And the shift that we are making is that we are now coming from what we call a social physical reality. Social stands for us people, and physical stands for the physical surroundings around us and the interaction between those two. And you could say that in the context of the city, you could call this the traditional city. We people shaped the physical surroundings around us, and at the same time, that physical surroundings is constantly of influence on how we act and behave and how we feel. A simple example, we talk differently to each other in the church than we do at the marketplace. So there's constant dynamics between the social and the physical reality, as you call it, and that's how we shaped our cities for centuries. And now there's something new coming up. We call that the digital reality. And from this perspective, from the traditional city, this digital reality is mainly seen as an instrument that we can use to automate our social physical world. It's about office automation or things like that, but it's not really about what digitization is all about. Or maybe some people even think that, okay, it's a reality, but some kind of parallel reality. It's not our reality, it's something that's next to our reality, and that sometimes something negative pops over out of that digital reality and that we need to deal with in our traditional world. So it's then seen as some kind of separate. We don't believe that's no longer the case. Well, we really believe that social, physical, and the digital reality are going to be completely intertwined and interwoven with each other. And from that perspective, we no longer have one dimension, the social physical dimension, but we have three dimensions. And the social digital dimension, which you see with all the social media, etc., but also the digital physical dimension, censoring smart traffic lights, etc., waste bins, whatever you could call it. All those things and now are working more and more towards working together and creating a new kind of reality of the city. And we see then also a development towards what we call a digital urban community, in which the social, physical, and digital reality are completely interwoven, and people are moving seamlessly between a completely digital world to a completely physical world and every form in between. So we believe that that will be the next future, or that will be also the city of the future. When you look at that, it's also very important to think about the underlying infrastructures of that realities that we're talking about. And the social and physical infrastructures in our city we are quite familiar with, and we know what to do with that. But when it comes to the digital infrastructure, that's a completely whole new ballgame. And then everybody is talking about, okay, but why should we do anything as a municipality for this digital infrastructure? Why don't we leave this to the market parties? They know much better to do this than we do. We believe that it's very important as a municipality to think about that. When you compare it to the physical infrastructure, then it makes sense that as a city we think about it. And why should it be different when we talk about the digital infrastructure of that city? And by learning what our role could be in the development of the digital infrastructure of the city, we as a city now are initiating the development of an open urban platform. Because we see an open urban platform really as a centerpiece in the digital infrastructure. And we believe by initiating the development of it that we can learn what it means to this digital infrastructure and what kind of role we as a government should have in this development of this infrastructure. Now, and we developed that open urban platform by what we call the urban digital twin concept. And that means that we are at this moment mainly focusing on the digital physical dimension, but in a later phase, as we go towards the digital urban community, we also are very much interacting with the social reality. For us, a digital twin starts with what we call a smart 3D model of the city. In which, as Rotterdam, we have a 3D model of the city in which we have all the buildings, but also all the waste bins, lampposts, trees, cables and pipes in the underground, all the assets of the city we have in our 3D model available as objects. And we see that as a basis for that digital twin. So it starts with a 3D model of the city. But when you combine that 3D model with all kinds of real-time data about functioning of the city, so we have a waste bin in our model and we connect it to a sensor that says if it's full or not. And when you bring those two things together, how many cars are driving through the streets, what is the air quality, or what kind of data you can imagine that's telling something about the current reality of the city. When you bring those two together, then you get what we call a digital twin of the city. So for us, a digital twin is nothing more or nothing less as a common and shareable view on the current physical reality of the city, described by actual data. And of course, what's very interesting, if you store your digital twin, you're not only having data about what you see on this picture here, if that parking lot is occupied or not, but you also have, of course, all kind of historical patterns about the occupation of that parking lot in the past. And that's also very interesting policy information. But the digital twin, we see it as a basis and not a part of, but as a basis for all kind of new smart applications and services you can think about. And they can all use the reality described in your digital twin of that city. And here you see a number of examples that we're all, as Rotterdam, are working on. It's about safety, it's about sustainability, it's about co-creation and participation, and it's also about smart spatial planning. And of this last one, I want to show you one example to give you an idea of what we're working on. And what we are now doing is we call it the building permit check service, in which we are now working on automating the building permit process by bringing Geo and BIM together. We have a BIM model of a new development. We have our Geo model of the city. And when you bring those two together, then you can, combined with smart rules and regulations, you can much quicker and largely automated and much more transparent come to a process in which you can check your permits much smarter.